Welcome to the New Horizons group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Stephanie and I am an alcoholic. I have just muted everyone's microphone. It's very important to keep background noise to a minimum so we can all hear clearly. Because we will all be muted, we will not thank each reader or say hi to each reader. I will thank the readers. I've asked Nina to please read the preamble.
Hi guys, I'm Nina, I'm an alcoholic. AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety.
Thanks, Nina. I've asked Teresa to read the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous from page 59.
Good afternoon. My name is Teresa. I'm an alcoholic. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives became unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to all alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I cannot go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guidelines to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostics, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholics and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. C, that God could and would if He were sought. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. I will now read from Appendix 1 in the back of the book on the AA tradition and the tradition of the month in its long form. To those now in its fold, Alcoholics Anonymous has made the difference between misery and sobriety, and often the difference between life and death. AA can, of course, mean just as much to uncounted alcoholics not yet reached. Therefore, no society of men and women ever had a more urgent need for continuous effectiveness and permanent unity. We alcoholics see that we must work together and hang together, else most of us will finally die alone. The 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous are, we AAs believe, the best answers that our experience has yet given to those ever-urgent questions. How can AA best function, and how can AA best stay whole and so survive? And Tradition 4 in its long form, with respect to its own affairs, each AA group should be responsible to no other authority than its own conscience. But when its plans concern the welfare of neighboring groups also, those groups ought to be consulted. No group, regional committee, or individual should ever take any action that might greatly affect AA as a whole without conferring with the trustees of the General Service Board. On such issues, our common welfare is paramount. Do we have any new people with us today under 30 days sober who think you may have a problem with alcohol? If so, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Hi guys, Haley, alcoholic, 10 days today.
Awesome, Haley. So good to see you. Happy 10 days. Do we have any AA anniversaries to be acknowledged? Okay, the format of this meeting is as follows. Our speaker will share with us for about 20 minutes on their story, what they were like, what happened, and what they are like now. During this time, please keep your phone on mute. The speaker will then choose a topic from the first 164 pages of the Big Book. When the speaker is done sharing and reading, I will call names for sharing. If you unmute your phone to thank the speaker or to share, please remember to mute yourself again promptly. We will end the meeting at 1 o'clock. And please allow me to introduce our guest speaker today, Chris R. from the Ingram Group in Dallas, Texas. Chris?
Yay! Thanks, guys. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Echo, thanks so much. My name is Chris R. I'm very grateful, recovered alcoholic. I got sober in it was November 13th. It was a Friday the 13th, 1987. And I'm delighted to be here. I actually live in Ingram, Texas. Our little AA group's called Ingram Solution Group. And I'm about 60 miles west of San Antonio. We're kind of right in the center of the state. And I'm honored to be here, guys. Thank Carrie and thanks Kat and anybody else that had anything to do with getting me on here. I'm good excuse to take the afternoon off too. Thanks. So I appreciate it. I'm sitting about 5 miles from where I had my first drink, folks, up on the Guadalupe River. About 1971, the month that our co-founder Bill Wilson passed away, I took my first drink, a bottle of Boone's Farm apple wine. I noticed some of you old geezers in the room there, and y'all are probably the only ones that remember that stuff, but it was pretty nasty tasting. Anyway, oh my gosh, me and a friend drank it, and I was off to the races. Guys, I got to tell you, I was a pretty talented little guy. I was in the food business and ended up going to Houston to get in an apprenticeship program. And there was a long period of time when alcohol, I mean, you've heard every speaker out there say it worked. I mean, when alcohol was working for me, you couldn't touch me. I worked better. Just everything was better, slightly inebriated. I wasn't doing all the crazy stuff that so many people do. My father was an alcoholic, and my twin brother and I caught the bullet. And I got two sisters that didn't have a problem. But I'm saying, we were raised in a beautiful family, and they're just. I got a great work ethic, and I'm not without it. I'm not doing a lot of crazy stuff that you hear in Alcoholics Anonymous. And so it was going to plague me years later. But I ended up getting married in the late 70s. It was actually early 80s. I'm on all kinds of medications because I've got this thing called depression. And who knew that alcohol was a depressant? Oh my gosh. And I'm on all kinds of medications and all doctor prescribed. But I'm a miserable little cuss. And I came home one night, just real quick, guys, because I'm watching the clock closer than y'all are. I came home drunk one night and had a pushing match with my little wife and freaked me out. And I promised her I'd stop drinking, and I meant it with every fiber in my body. And a week and a half later, I drank a beer with a chef after work and came home patting myself on the back because I didn't get drunk. But that wasn't the deal I made with her. I made the deal was that I wasn't going to touch another drop. And I didn't understand why I did it. I don't know why. I can always seem to manage to rationalize and justify why it's okay for me to do that. But I went to AA early 80s to try to get sober. I'd watched my father go for a while. And up in North Texas, guys, they were wonderful people. I've never been treated poorly in Alcoholics Anonymous. They were just a bunch of wonderful people. But there's no big books in the place. I was going to meetings, and I was going to a meeting that was convenient. And I didn't know anything about big books or sponsorship or anything. I just was going, and our formats at those, because the fourth tradition you just read, everybody can set them up any way they want. And these meetings were, who's got the problem? And so we'd talk for an hour about somebody's dead cat. And I'd get in my pickup truck and go like, what the heck was that? And I don't know why I can't stop drinking. And 7 years later, I tried to commit suicide, and it's just stupid. Just tired of letting people down. I've spent tons of money on trying to get well, and I can't. And I ended up going back into AA the next day. I aborted that attempt and walked back into a little group in Louisville, Texas, and somebody had showed me that group, and he said, if you ever go into that group, take a big book, because that's a big book meeting. And I didn't know what that was, but it didn't sound good, and a bunch of religious zealots maybe, but but it was close to my house, and it was between, I went there, and I walked in the back door, and I got real self-conscious and tried to leave, and a little girl stopped me from going, and the old timers got around me. And I got to tell you guys, they went around that room and they talked about how their lives had changed as a result of the steps. Nobody tried to, told me their story. Guys, I've been sitting in AA for 7 years listening to all these war stories. And every time I hear I'm not knocking your story. I'm just saying every time I hear another story, I'm identifying. Nope, I never did that. Nope, I never did that. Nope. And I don't know what it is to be an alcoholic. All those years, I don't know. And after the meeting, I picked up a chip, and these guys said, man, sit with us for a few minutes and let me show you why. And I got to tell you guys, these two old geezers are long passed away, but they sat down with me. They should have been home with their wives at dinner, but they stayed with me for about 15, 20 minutes after the meeting and opened the big book and showed me in there the questions about how to qualify an alcoholic. And they asked me the questions about control and choice. And I got to tell you, folks, for the first time, I went home that night with tears in my eyes because it was clear to me that I was an alcoholic. And although I had not done all the crazy stuff some people had done, I absolutely qualified. I could identify with the symptoms. My bottom wasn't somebody's story. My bottom was understanding what it was to be one of us. And guys, it changed my life. Those guys, I don't know. I owe them a lot. There's a little letter in 1942 that Bill Wilson wrote. There's an excerpt from it, and as Bill sees it, and it says, our chief responsibility to the newcomer is an adequate presentation of the program. I got little stickers made up, because it's one of we've got it in our AA group. But I take that really to heart. So if I'm working with a newcomer or I see a little new guy coming into the meeting, I want to do for that little guy what those two old geezers did for me. They gathered around me and they said, Chris, if you'll start working the steps at a good clip, let's get that work done, your life will change forever. And they stress the importance of meetings, but they also stress the importance of service. And they started me working through the steps, guys, but I got to tell you, 2 weeks in, they had a group conscience and where they said they had an opening for a chairman of the cleanup committee. Now, I'm 35 years old, guys, right? And I'm, anyway, group conscience, they nominated me, unanimous, and I didn't want to do that at all. But after the meeting, I asked the old guys, I said, give me a list of the cleanup committee so I can organize our cleanings, and they both spit coffee. There were two guys in there, both spit coffee, like, buddy, and they were laughing their butts off. I said, there's no committee, Chris, you're it. You're the chairman of the cleanup committee. And I was grumbling the whole time. But the next day I went in there and I cleaned up that club like a big boy. I'm in the food business for years, guys, and I know how to clean up a room. And I was sitting in there at a 6 o'clock meeting was fixing to start, and I'm in there, got coffee made. And the matriarch of that group, the nice older lady, she comes in and I hear her gasp. She walked into the bathroom. She gasped real loud. And I was like, what the heck? And she looked around the corner and she had that look on her face. And she said, did you clean this place? And I looked at her, you know how we do this. I wasn't wearing a tie, but if I had it, I'd have straightened it. Yes, ma'am, I did. And, buddy, I got to tell you, she walked around behind me and got that little bony arm, gave me a little back hug and like that. And she whispered, and she said, buddy, we need you here. Do y'all realize how long it had been since anybody had said, we need you to do anything besides put your hand behind your back? Oh, my God, please don't call. We need you to not call here anymore. Yeah. And and they got me answering the phones out front. And then I was the first literature little chairman there. And they helped me, I got to order literature for the group. Guys, I got to say it real quick. I'm so blessed that I landed in a room full of people, men and women, who didn't spend a lot of time telling me what I couldn't do. They spent a whole bunch of time telling me what I could do. We got people out there that think AA is a cult because every time you turn around, there's another story out there. You know, they told us we couldn't date, or they told us we couldn't do this, or they told us, you know, I'm sorry. Nowhere in the book does it say any of that. It says work the steps, have a spiritual experience, and then go help somebody. That's how we grow spiritually. And I owe those old geezers my life because I got a lot of people to be thankful for. But those are the guys that loved me. And it wasn't just the old guys, the young people. Everybody was watching out for me. And Lord knows I needed it. They kind of showed me something really, my little page that I'm reading, guys, little paragraph I'm going to read on page 132. Still one of my favorites. I can't read it without wanting to tear up sometimes. Bottom of the page, it talks about, so we think cheerfulness and laughter make for usefulness. Outsiders are sometimes shocked when we burst into merriment over a seemingly tragic experience out of our past. But why shouldn't we laugh? We have recovered and been given the power to help others. God, guys, they encouraged me to get involved in this service. They encouraged me as soon as I possibly could to start sponsoring people, helping, doing work with others. Bill Wilson understood from the very beginning. Anybody who rudimentary, even the conference-approved literature makes a really clear point. Bill Wilson knew he needed another alcoholic to help him more than that alcoholic could ever need. The literature talks about when he was in Akron and the business deal went bad. He started working with drunks the minute he got out of the hospital, and he stayed sober. So I wonder sometimes, I'm not trying to be controversial or mean, why we have so many people out there sharing their own opinions about why you can't work with others. I had a guy come up, I always tell that in New Orleans one time, mad at a workshop I was doing, and I was talking about urgently getting busy and involved, and he said, we don't let people in New Orleans, we don't let people sponsor until they're 5 years sober. Well, okay, I suggest you start your own fellowship. maybe that'd be a great idea. Why don't we just do what the big book says? I don't know, guys. Cleanup committee, all that stuff just changed my life because it made me feel useful. And these guys that night, to wrap this up, they showed me, guys, that gave me the one thing that I needed the most. It wasn't another stupid war story. They weren't trying to scare me into recovery. They pulled me with a vision of hope about what life could be like in sobriety. 2 weeks in, guys, I've been in AA for 7 years and the obsession never lifted me. And 2 weeks in, I've got a completed 4-step ready to dump a 5th step. And these guys got me active in the group. And it dawns on me that the obsession to use is lifted. And guys, that was 32 years ago. I work with a lot of guys. I sponsor a boatload of little young hoodlums, and they just make my day. And they're all end up the same. I don't care what line they come from, how much money they got, or what they're involved in, other stuff. If they get active and find a place in our fellowship, they stay. If they come in and just sit on the sidelines and wait to go smoke, they just don't last very long. And I know they want to. It's frustrating sometimes because we want to, they relapse. And then, they used to do it with me. I knew that little one-eyed some bitch didn't want it, and I just like, oh man, of course I wanted it. But the newcomer doesn't know what to ask. So I know today that it's my responsibility. The responsibility pledge says I'm responsible. It didn't say we as a group. I don't know what the group's going to do. I don't know what everybody else is going to do. I know it's my responsibility to get my skinny little one-eyed butt up out of the chair and go find that little newcomer and make sure he's okay. Make sure he knows where the coffee is and who the cool people are. And, just help him feel comfortable. And, because those old guys did it in 1987. I'm sober today and got a pretty cool life. And I am so honored that you guys asked me to speak. This Zoom stuff's pretty amazing. I've been about 5 talks this week, and I go back and I look at the attendance and who's in the meeting. And golly, I know a bunch of people over in Oregon. There's a bunch of people there I know. And hi guys, and it just warms my heart. I'm closer now to some people around the world than I was before all this stuff came down the pike. If there's any silver lining, maybe this is it. But I'm sure honored to be here, guys, and thanks again for asking me to speak.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you taking the time to share with us today. I will now be calling on people to share. Please share on what you identified with or the topic from what was read. Please keep your shares under 3 minutes. If you make it to 3 minutes, we'll hear the timer. At that point, please wrap it up. I'd like to start off by calling on Jenna from New Horizons.
Hi, I'm Jenna. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'm Jenna. I'm an alcoholic, and my home group is New Horizons, and I am on steps 10, 11, and 12. And thank you so much for your share. So thank you. I identified with a lot that you shared, and I love the passage that you read. I believe it was 132 in the big book about we have recovered, when it says we have recovered. I love that passage. And sorry, I just walked in the house. I leave work and then I listen to these meetings. And anyway, this program saved my life. I am grateful for this program, and I'm so glad I got to hear you today. Thanks. Thank you. That's all I have, sir.
Thanks, Jenna. I'd like to call on Mike from the Out to Breakfast group. Mike?
Mike, recovered alcoholic. Oh my, one of my heroes. I've gone through this book because of you, Chris. You and Mark Houston, and the passion that you bring. It just gets me. I won't talk very long because I'll get loud. I'll table pound like my first sponsor did 36 years ago. Because this thing, written the way it is, has saved millions and millions. And to anybody who wants to change it or adapt it, like you say, go find another program. This one's fine just the way it is, because it's saving lives on a daily basis. Now, for guys like me, who will isolate without it, without this Zoom thing, So thank God for AA, and thank God for you, Chris Raymer. God bless y'all. Done.
Thank you.
And I'd like to call on Pam from New Horizons. Pam?
Thanks, Stephanie. Pam, alcoholic. Thanks so much, Chris, for your lead. I really appreciate what you had to say about being presented the program exactly as it comes from the book. I was first introduced to AA in treatment, and the only thing I learned about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous was what the posters saying no war stories meant. That's all I got. And I didn't realize the point of it at all for about another year and a half. And I was so glad that I landed in New Horizons eventually, where they finally told me what the program of action was, what I needed to do. And the ladies got a hold of me and made me feel welcome and useful and not crazy anymore. And I really appreciated hearing that you said, we've recovered, because for the longest time, like, what does that mean? Am I supposed to just not drink and be an absolute disaster on the inside for the rest of my life? And then when I found out what recovered meant, and that it meant being, free from alcohol through the 12 steps, that was just like this bright light for me and something to really strive for. And so I'm just forever grateful that I can be one of those people that say, I've recovered. Thanks so much for sharing with us today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Pam.
Thank you.
And I'd like to call on Joel from the SOB group. Joel?
Hello there. I'm Joel Sanchez, alcoholic.
Hey, Joel.
And thank you very much for sharing. It was a phenomenal message. And you briefly talked about the responsibility statement. And for those of you who don't know it, it's I am responsible. When anyone, anywhere reaches out for help, I want the hand of AA always to be there. And for that, I am responsible. One of the cool things up here is that's how almost every meeting I go to ends. That instead of having either one of the prayers, it's this constant reminder of, the hand of AA is on my wrist. And I really like your sticker, to be able to transmit this program accurately as described in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I've seen the alternative. I've seen it many times, and an old timer I never met in Bend, his name was Buzz. He died before I got there. He used to always tell people, maybe it's time you go start BB, because AA clearly isn't good enough for you, and these are some of those old timer. There was a lot of more dickish one-liners that the old timers used to say when I got here. And, the longer I get and the more I see derivation from the simple but profound message of Alcoholics Anonymous, the more those old sayings come back to me, and I realize the wisdom and the power of that sobriety, freedom from alcohol through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps. Many other miracles come as a result, but my focus in Alcoholics Anonymous is that first one. This is a situation that is absolutely terminal. It will kill me. And I remember being brand new too. And I remember coming, to meetings. I was in tears a lot. I was introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous at 21, but I didn't get sober till I was 23. And when I came back at 23, I was in tears in a lot of meetings, and I didn't have much to share. But I was called on frequently, and I would share the what was in me, which wasn't much that anybody needed to hear. And I remember coming back to meetings the next day and people lighting up and wanting to hug me. And it was a very strange thing. And I was not a hugger. And it's practically one of the things that defines me now, as I absolutely am. And I was taught by those guys. And it took me a couple of years to realize why. Is, when you see somebody who is new and in pain and has absolutely no tools, and they're there in a meeting, there's nothing more powerful than seeing them there again the next day. And at this point, I'd just like to say hello to Haley. In the last 10 days, I've probably been at 8 meetings with you. And that's one of the, I had that moment when I saw you pop up as one of the early faces, like, yes, she made it back to another meeting. In a situation like this, where there's such lack of that basic physical interaction, it scares me to death to think of being brand new. And, to see that it still works and it can still be transmitted regardless of the times we're in, it warms my heart. It is that bright spot in my life to see these things still taking place. So that's about all I've got, but I love you guys. I'm tickled to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joel. I'd like to call on Kathleen from New Horizon. Kathleen? Kathleen, are you with us? Okay, we'll come back to you, Kathleen, if you can get it to work on your end. I'd like to call on Anthony from BYOC. Anthony?
Hi, everybody. My name is Anthony. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and thanks for doing this. Thanks for having us. You guys are a great group. Recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. I mean, it took me 18 years to find out what it was, right? 18 years of being sober, I use quotation marks, in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, where I was still trying to run the show and still going to meetings when I want and not working with anybody. But God gave me the gift of not drinking. But 18 years in, I was emotionally sick as I'd ever been. And Chris, you actually got information to my sponsor who had been doing the same thing, Joe Sal, down in Florida one time. And we started sitting in Starbucks on Saturday morning and reading the stuff that you were sending them. And, we went through the book, and they wait for the cover page to say recovered. It's literally on the first page of the book, and that's all they say. And it just means that I don't wake up every day and have the insanity, the obsession to want to drink. I love that you said it. We've recovered and given the power to help others. Peace. Have a good day.
Thanks, Anthony. I'd like to call on Mike from New Horizon. Mike?
Yeah, thanks. I'd love to play the video, but nobody want to watch me work. I really loved what the speaker was talking about. I got sober in 1982 at age 18, and I needed to be sober. because I was about ready to put a gun to my head and shoot myself anyway. But the thing about it is, back then, like what was said, things were a lot different then. You know, it was like, shut up. Just sit down, shut up, put the cotton in your mouth that you took it and put them in, take them, like everybody knows. Take them out of your ears, put them in your mouth. You know, and that's the way that AA was then. So I had to get away from those people because I wanted to be talking and chasing girls and everything at 18, you know. I may be an alcoholic, but I still got my youth. Well, my youth went to shit real fast because not only did I want to chase my youth, I wanted to chase a woman, and then I married her, and then I got kids, and then everything blew to hell. And so I always say that I married my higher power, and then I had to divorce her. And then I was with 2 kids, and that's when I came back into the program, and that's when I found the people that were saying, take the cotton out of your ear, put them in your mouth, you know. And I just didn't want to say anything because everything that came out of my mouth was a lie anyway. Even whether I thought it was the truth, it was still a lie. So then I got with a sponsor, and that really went through the steps. And I was told, if you want to be my sponsee, you're going to have to go through the steps. And I said, okay, let's give it a try. And I did it, and I started feeling better. And it was scary, but I just started feeling better, so I just kept going because I couldn't stand feeling the way I was and thinking the way I was thinking. And at one point, and this comes to what the speaker was saying, that I says, there's something missing in me. There's something missing. And I was told, well, are you talking to a newcomer? I says, I give my phone number to them all the time. I was told, yeah, stop that. You need to go up to them and get their phone number. And I started doing that, and right away, it was just like Bill, you know, I'm helping another alcoholic. I'm not waiting for them to get the balls to ask somebody. I'm helping them. And I was told to only do that for 2 weeks. I did it for 12 years, and I still do it sometimes today. And I think that's the whole spirit of this program. And that's all I got anyway. Have a great day.
Thanks, Mike. I'd like to call on Melissa, member at large. Melissa?
Hi, my name is Melissa, and I'm an alcoholic. I have a home group, and I'm currently working steps 10, 11, and 12. And I just have to brag and say that I have the same sticker on the back of my book. And thank you so much, Chris. It was really great hearing you today. So like that's one of my favorite quotes from the book that you read, that we have recovered and been given the power to help others. And like recently I had the experience where like for the first time in my sobriety, I kind of fell out of my routine and structure, and I became spiritually sick, and I created some wreckage. I stayed sober, but I created wreckage, and I was able to experience that like the importance of the maintenance steps, because like it wasn't until I started like I had to make some amends sober, and then I was able to like have that connection with my higher power again. So like if I'm like not following the maintenance steps, then I'm spiritually sick, and when I'm spiritually sick, I'm not helping other people, and I'm useless. So like that's kind of like I realized that that's kind of like my job now today, is to stay spiritually fit so I can help the people that need my help, because like I was presented with an adequate presentation of this program, and I was able to understand you know, I had a strong sponsorship line, and I was taken through the big book, and I was you know, I was told to be of service, and I had all these things, and I noticed that a lot of people don't have that opportunity that I did. And so like it's my job to kind of be like a soldier for AA and just suit up and show up wherever I can and carry the accurate message of the 12 steps through the big book. And so that's what I try to do every day. And yeah, thank you so much for speaking.
Thanks,
Bye.
Melissa. I'd like to call on Joellen from Horizon. Joellen?
Hi, Joellen, alcoholic. New Horizons. I'm working my third step, and sobriety date is March 5th, 2020. Quite the rollout, isn't it? I love the message today. It really amped me up, really want to do service. And I'm just excited and new and need to know more what I can do. So I'm going to lay it out there. And that's what I've got to say. Thanks so much for the message today. I loved it.
Thanks so much, Joellen. I'd like to call on Samantha from WFS. Samantha?
Everyone, I'm Samantha. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, everyone. It's so cool to see all these faces. Every day at noon or 5:30 or 7:30 or whatever, I get 25 people on my screen that I get to talk to and listen to and visit with. It's really cool for me. Thank you for your lead, Chris. I have listened to so many of your talks. I used to clean houses, and all day I would just let you guys yak in my ear. And, it was a huge spiritual experience every time I heard you guys talk, and same for today. My experience is that I stopped doing 10, 11, and 12. And I became sick, and so the power to help others was removed from me, and I became a liability again instead of an asset, and it lasted for quite some time, and it started with, I could smoke weed, that's fine. Actually it started with a whole bunch of other stuff, really, but that was the first physical loss of my sobriety, was smoking weed. And and I gotta say, I knew it the whole time. I started putting off my AA responsibilities. I started putting AA second, third, fourth on my list. I'd put my sponsees off because I had something better to do. I chased a boy because I'm still a little girl, and it all blew up in my face. And that is the extent of my powerlessness. And it's scary. It's scary. I never thought that I would experience what I experienced over 2019. That is hands down the worst year I've ever experienced, mainly because I drug my son through it. When I was screwing up before, I was just solo, and the lie is that I'm not hurting anyone but myself. No doubt I was hurting my mom, my siblings, my grandparents, my family, but to watch my son deteriorate because I am not up to par, because I'm not standing on my feet, is super sad and terrible, because he's truly an innocent bystander. And I hope that he never has to see that again. So I'm just back to doing the basics, what I know to be true. I know that the instructions in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, I've lived it, I've experienced it, I've shared it, and it's a lifeline. And so I'm currently 9, 10, 11, and 12, and I cannot wait till someone asks me to be their sponsor. All right, thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Anne. I'd like to call on Morgan from New Horizon. Morgan?
Sorry, Morgan, alcoholic. Hi, thanks for calling on me.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. I was taking a research methods class for psych this morning, and they were talking about this simple principle where if you're looking at two theories and you're trying to decide which one to breathe your scientific energy into, always go with the one that's more simple. And And in simplicity, there can be a lot of truth, and in complication, there can be a lot of confounding factors and befuddlement. And Chris, when you spoke, I just heard the pure simplicity of a newcomer walking into Alcoholics Anonymous and being put to work and being told exactly what I was told in an old creaky house in Portland where there was no lights and it was dirty and the meetings were an hour and a half. I was told, you're welcome, you're wanted, and you're needed here. And the same message of the woman putting her arm around your back and giving you that little side hug was the same reception I received. I was told, like you said, I was told what I could do and how I was shown how I could be of use. And the entire backbone has been how to get to a place spiritually where I can be of maximum service. And having that purpose in my life has fueled me and has helped me every step of the way. So as I listen to all of you from afar, I just want to say that I'm comforted and inspired by the fellowship and the program as it continues to unify in these uncertain times. And I'm incredibly grateful to have a higher power in my sobriety today. Thanks.
Thanks, Morgan. I'd like to call on Rick from WPG. Rick.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rick Hader. I'm an alcoholic. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Chris, great job. Great to hear from you. I too, I've been the beneficiary of a new way of life since June 25th, 1991. And I mean, it was July that year when the old geezers in my group had a special group conference so I could get a key to the chicken coop. The meeting place was an old chicken coop where they knocked the chickens out and threw a wood stove and some chairs and couches in there. And they allowed me to do it before I had 90 days. Barely 30 days in, they're letting me open the place, make the coffee, make the fire in the wintertime. And old Melinda had to tell me how to wash ashtrays. I thought, no, there's a certain way to do it. So, once I felt such a part and such a useful piece of the group, it became apparent that there was useful nature beyond that. I heard the late, great Clint Hodges one time talk about useful pays real well. It's interesting that, in the forward to the first edition, there's a statement in there that says, to show others precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of our program, of this book. And I believe it's one of our very first instructions. It's interesting, too, that Bill Wilson over and over and over, brings this message to us. I think, very early on, he mentions that the alcoholic who fails to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through self-sacrifice and constant, through work and self-sacrifice for others is going to be unable to survive the certain, not the probable, but certain low times ahead. We're in a certain funny time right now. I'm grateful that I have people that I can share myself with and share every word of this book. I've got a guy that doesn't speak English very well, and he asked me what obsession meant. My daughter happened to give me a dictionary from the 40s. It's a second edition Webster's, and it's interesting. The definition for obsession in there is an act of an evil spirit in besetting a person or impelling them to take a certain action from without themselves. So he asked me, he goes, well, does that mean we're possessed? I go, yeah, dude, the 12 steps are the exorcism for this thing. And, and it's interesting how, later on in Jim's story, our good friend Jim, the car salesman, Mr. Self-knowledge, he fails because he failed to enlarge his spiritual life. So, I mean, there's over and over and over we're told this, but, alcoholics sometimes intuitively know how to avoid the things that are the very best for us. Maybe it's too inconvenient. Maybe it's, but our main purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service. So I'm glad you pointed that out and reminded us all about it, Chris. Say hi to your brother for us. Love you, buddy. Thanks.
Thanks, Rick. I'd like to call on Vicki from New Horizon. Vicki?
Hello there, Stephanie and everybody. Thank you. I'm Vicki, an alcoholic, and this has been so great. I've just really enjoyed everyone's shares and love listening to you, Chris. First thing I related to was the Boone's Farm, because that's what I started with. Can't beat Boone's Farm, or at least you couldn't back then. But as the years went on, I got better taste and better wine, and it was really hard to quit. And it finally, I tried for many years along the way, but it was after some years of drinking that I finally hit a place where, even though I didn't have a lot of consequences that would make me look like a real alcoholic, it's like for years and years, I had this sense that I was dying inside, and it was the alcohol that was doing that. And finally, I got to where I couldn't ignore that anymore, and I got some help, and that help led me to New Horizons and to sobriety. And what is really striking me listening to you and just some of the things that's been going on for me the last few days is when you talk about service and how important that is. And because I know for myself, if I'm not careful, if I feel left out, I'm going to go the other way if I'm not being a part of. And that is probably one reason I stayed away from any helpful groups like AA for years, because I never felt a part of. But I realized today that being a part of is so dependent also on my taking part and offering myself. And that, for me, that's contrary thinking. But that's what I've been learning in this program, is to learn to be open to different thoughts, which lead to different actions. And so, I feel I'm like, oh, I wish I would be able to learn all this a lot faster, and my life would change faster in all of this. But another thing I learned in this program is that I have to trust that I'm exactly where I'm at for a reason, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And you guys all give me the ability to live in this place with serenity, which I can't believe. I was thinking about that word this morning, and the serenity prayer, and how God grant me the serenity to blah blah blah. But it's like that serenity for me means trusting in that higher power, and then I can be open to making changes that I'm hearing and have the wisdom. But it's like I've got to be open to that higher power first. I guess you caught me on a day when I could just talk and talk, but I can't. It's time for me to stop. So thanks, everybody, and have a great day.
Thanks, Vicki.
You bet.
I'd like to call on William from BYOC.
William, recovered alcoholic. Chris, such a great line. We have recovered and been given given the power to help others. And that's been like the case with my story, is that I came in here and I was totally hopeless. And my sponsor sort of laid it out in the fact of, are you a heavy drinker, a moderate drinker, or a real alcoholic? And it says those questions that you asked, where it's can you quit on your own willpower? Can you limit the amount you have? If that be the case, then you're probably suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience can conquer. And he sort of was on my butt about getting through the steps, like you said, at a pretty decent clip. I went through the steps in about 2 weeks, and I had a spiritual experience. And now it's sort of hard for me to not talk about God, and it's hard for me to not talk about a spiritual experience and not talk about the fact that this program has given me a life beyond my wildest dreams. It's not something like I didn't get my old life back. You know what I mean? I got something completely new. And, I did some of I did some of those service things, but it says, practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. Coffee, great. Driving guys to meetings, great. picking up the phone, the 3 alcoholics, all these things, beautiful, beautiful things, right? But the intensive work with other alcoholics is bringing somebody through the steps. And, it says, there's people in this program that, I'm not going to put anybody on a pedestal, but it says if you want what we have and you're willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. I found a bunch of people in this program that were a we. They introduced me to a book, Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers. And there's a lot of people in there that, I look up to now. But one of the big things that stuck out of my mind is that guy, Oscar W. He came back, he had like 0 time. He was working with like 17 newcomers in the first couple weeks. It shows what God can do in somebody's life. And with that, I'll pass the time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, William. Okay, I'm gonna try Kathleen one more time. Kathleen, are you still with us?
Horizons. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Kathleen.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank the committee for the fabulous job you are doing bringing these meetings into our home. It means more than anything to me that I can pick up my phone and I can be in a meeting in these hard times, and we don't know how much longer it's going to last. But this has really, really helped me, and I thank all of you for your effort in doing this. I can't thank you enough. I have tremendous gratitude for all of you, and I think it's wonderful that we could hear from people from all over. And thank Carrie for doing a job on getting our speakers for us. You're doing a tremendous job. And Chris, I really liked what you had to share today. I especially liked that you said it was important to have adequate presentation of the program. And luckily I was given that. I had a sponsor that gave me a good presentation and took me through all the steps until I was ready to spread my wings and do other service. And another thing about coming to meetings is important. I try to come to a meeting every day when I can at noon when we have New Horizons. And now I'm attending these meetings by phone. And then your part about service. The first service position I had was making coffee, and that brought me into the group and made me a part of the group, and I felt more of a part of the herd when I was doing that. And the part about we need you here, to feel needed, to feel wanted, to feel that I belong in the group and that I'm adding something to the group, that really helps me with my sobriety. So with that, I'd just like to say to everybody, have a wonderful day, and thank you again so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen. Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing your story with us today. Our next meeting will be tomorrow, which is Friday at noon. And our speaker for tomorrow is Bob D. from the Connect the Dots group in Las Vegas. I suggest joining us tomorrow. The same phone number, same login, everything's the same tomorrow. Let's see. Do New Horizons group officers have any announcements today?
I'm Pam. I'm an alcoholic. I am your workshop committee chair. This Sunday, we are going to be doing a workshop at 10:30. We're going to do an Ask It Basket style workshop where we're going to answer your questions on the traditions. We did a couple of weeks ago a speed workshop on the traditions. So if you have leftover questions, please send them in to me, or if you have any other questions on the traditions, please text those to me as well. My phone number is 503-896-2789. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Pam. And I'm Stephanie, the Horizon Recording Secretary. Everybody that's online with us today, I want to announce that this coming Monday, we will be implementing a password for safety. And that password is capital N, capital H, 164. So that's New Horizon NH164. So starting this coming Monday, you will need that password to get into our meetings. Thanks.
Morgan alcoholic, newly Morgan Alcoholic, newly appointed New Horizons Technology Chair. If any of you are struggling with Zoom meetings, downloading apps, getting the video, passwords, meeting IDs, or working with your phone, feel free to be in touch with me. Happy to walk you through it. I've talked to 5 or 6 members already. My cell phone number, 831-521-3313. And if you just want to chat, you can pretend you have an issue. We'll resolve it, and then we'll fellowship for a bit. It's always good to hear your voices. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Morgan.
Thanks,
I'm Carrie. I'm an alcoholic. I just have a quick announcement as your GSR. First, I wanted to thank Steve for being our timer today. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. Appreciate that, and I appreciate you, Steve, and I appreciate you being part of the committee. I also wanted to throw this out there because the General Service Conference is coming up this month. There is talk, and I don't want to startle anybody, and my phone number is available through Stephanie or Pam or myself. There is talk about a 5th edition Big Book. We usually do another edition every 20 years. It is up, for that this year. Last year failed, and for some reason it's up again. And they want to change some things in there. And so if you have any thoughts or opinions on that, and you are a member of New Horizons, I am your GSR, and I can take your opinions, and I can also offer you your delegates' information so that you can get to them. And if you're not part of New Horizons, hopefully your group does have a GSR. If it doesn't, find a new group. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. If you would like to stay after to briefly thank the speaker, feel free to do so. Everyone now may unmute your phone so that we may pray out loud together with the Serenity Prayer.